Oh, hi there. Welcome to Teika's Kitchen. Get ready to tantalize your taste buds. On today's menu, we're serving up a delightful, juicy pan seared pork chops with Aujus, roasted seasoned herb Parmesan potatoes, and a flavorful stir-fried cabbage and carrots. All right, now let's take a look at our ingredients, and we're using this thick pork chops. Good. And to give that burst of flavor, the seasoning and spices that we're going to use are some jerk seasoning, right? So we're going to go in with some mild Jamaican jerk seasoning. We're going to add our house seasoning, some pimento berries, along with some onion powder, some applewood rub for that nice burst of flavor also, and some garlic and onion powder. Right now, for our roasted potatoes, we're using Irish potatoes, and the herbs, we're going to use some oregano, Parmesan flakes, cayenne pepper, and a little paprika. And for stir-fried cabbage, the main seasoning that we'll be using is the all-purpose seasoning, and we're going to stir-fry or saute that with some butter. Right? Are you ready? I sure you are. Now let's take a final look of our ingredients, and then it's time to start the show. Now let's kick things off by cleaning our pork chops so that we can season and allow them to marinate, right? So we're taking them out of the package. They have fairly amount of good marbling. As you can see, the streaks of fat there deposit between the lean, which will give a burst of flavor and tenderness. Good. We're giving them a good wash just to get them nice and clean and ready. Good. Following that first rinse, we're going to rinse a second time with some lemon. Good. All right, and there we go, rinsing with some lemon to give a burst of flavor and also to remove any impurities. Now what we're doing here is just to pierce these chops with the cook's fork because they're a little thick, and we want our seasoning to go straight through. Good. So from the surface to the inside, we want to have a tasty meal. Good. Now, following washing our pork chops, we're going to go ahead and drain them on some paper towel and allow them to dry a bit so that when we put our spices on, it will not run off, but it will stick. Good. All right, so we're giving them a nice pat dry. Good. All right, and there we go with our nice 4 pieces, and now we're going to start adding our seasoning. So first we go in with some onion powder, garlic powder, some applewood rub, that whole seasoning that has a mixture of every little thing in it. All right, so we'll give that a good rub on both sides. Flip it over at the same seasoning again because we want to ensure that we have a tasty dish. Good. So here we have applied the whole seasoning, onion powder, garlic powder, the apple rub, and we're going in with some jerk seasoning. Good. We're not going to add any cayenne because the jerk seasoning is spicy. Good. So it is mild, so it is fine to not add any additional pepper, but if you want to, you can. Now in the meantime, we're going to prep our potatoes for our seasoned herb Parmesan potatoes. Right, so we are giving them a good scrub because we're going to cook them in the skin. So we're washing away all the dirt and the impurities from our potatoes so that the skin can be edible. Good. Giving it a nice scrub with our abrasive cleaner there to remove any dirt deposits. Here we go, giving a good swish. Now it's time to cut these, and what we're doing is just to cut these in about 1.5 inch thickness. You don't want to cut too thin because you want a nice good bite for your side. Good. And there we're slicing away. All right, and then we are going to put some salted water to boil these potatoes. We start off with cold water because we want to ensure even cooking, and we add about 1/2 tablespoon of salt to that pot. All right, and there we're going with 3 tablespoons of butter, paprika, oregano, some parsley flakes, good onion powder, garlic powder, and what we're doing is to creating the mixture that will toss our potatoes in once they are parboiled. So we're not going to boil the potatoes until fully cooked. We're just going to boil them for a minute. We put these in this mixture in the microwave to get it nice and melted to coat our potatoes. And in the meantime, while we're waiting on the potatoes, we're going to go ahead and start on our veggies. And the veggie that we're preparing is, you remember what it is? Yes, stir-fried cabbage and carrots. So we're getting our vegetables ready. We're washing our cabbage to ensure that it is nice and clean and crunchy, right? Strain it off, allow it to drain off that excess water, and we're going to go ahead to rinse our carrots, peel it with our vegetable peeler to get it prepared for our julienne cuts. And there we go, peeling away, nice and peely. Now we're going to sharpen our knife. We're checking on our potatoes here because, as I said, we're not going to cook them fully. We're just parboiling them so that it can speed up the cooking process and so that they can be nice and moist when we're roasting them, okay? All right, so to these potatoes, we're going to add that mixture that we did earlier on with the butter and those spices and the herbs. Give it a good toss. We're going to put these on a baking tray. Well, before we do that, we're adding our Parmesan cheese and we're giving it a good toss as well so that that cheese can stick to the seasonings that we just coated our potatoes in. Don't those look nice and attractive, guys? Yes, they do. All right, now these are now ready for the oven and we're going to pop them in until done. Good, nice. All right, and let us go into the oven we go. Now we're going back to our carrots. We're going to make some nice julienne slices. When you're slicing your carrots, try as best as possible to get uniform shapes so that we don't have any overcooking of any pieces, right? Because we want to have even cooking as well. So ensure that everything is cooked on the same timing. So we try to aim at similar sizes. And a julienne cut just enhance our presentation to give us some nice attractive matchstick looking like shapes. Good, but you can, if you want to do rondelle and cut your carrots round, you can, or whatever shape that you decide to use, that's also fine as well. All right, so away we go with our carrots, and then we're going to move on to shredding our cabbage with the knife. Right, we don't really necessarily need to do this extra fine because we're not going to eat them raw, they're going to be cooked. So a nice decent medium slices or shreds should be good, right? Okay, there we go, we're almost done, almost at the finish line, right? Okay, and then we're going to take these vegetables, put them aside. Now the next thing that we're going to move on to is searing our pork chops. Now what we have added is about 2 tablespoons of oil, vegetable oil. We add some escallion and a clove of garlic. If you have thyme or rosemary, feel free to add those as well. Right, so we're going to put our pork chops in. They're nice and thick, so ensure that each chop touch the surface of your pan if you're doing these sizes, right? And we're not going to do this for a long time because we want them to be nice and juicy. So as soon as we seal on the outside to keep the seasoning on, we're just going to transfer them to the oven to finish the cooking process, right? So we won't sear for too long. We're just sealing in the juice, sealing in the seasonings, the spices that we use. And to that we're going to add about, in total, 1 tablespoon of butter, right? So that these pork chops can be nice and moist, right? So pork chops is cooked at 145 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're going to bear that in mind when we're cooking our pork chops. And there we're checking in on our roasted potatoes, put them to the bottom shelf. And there we go with our nice juicy, succulent pork chops, and they will go to the top shelf. Alright, now the potatoes are ready. We took them out of the oven. This is what they're looking like. Alright, now it's time for our veggies. To our skillet, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of butter and about a 1/4 teaspoon to 3/4 teaspoon of all-purpose seasoning. We are going to add some garlic powder, some onion powder, so we can have a boost of flavor. And we're going to saute our scallion and our onions. Good. If you wish to add some thyme leaf to yours, by all means you can. Alright, now we're going to give this a quick saute until these onions are translucent, until the flavors are released. Now in go with our julienne carrots, right? We'll add these first because they're a little harder than the cabbage, and we don't want them to be too hard or cabbage too soft. When we want both to be al dente and just right. Now we're stirring, ensuring that we get all that burst of seasonings and flavors that are on the bottom of our skillet on our cabbage and our carrots, right? And we're stirred to combine so that all these flavors can just marry together and taste so wonderful when you bite into it. Good. Have your mouth watering. All right, now this is almost ready, but before we take it off, we're going to sprinkle some parsley flakes, add some black pepper, and we give that a good stir, right? Of course, you know the black pepper is optional. The parsley flakes add to the attractiveness, and there we go. We're checking in on our pork chops. We're giving them a quick flip. They're looking real good, real juicy, not too dried out, and that's what we're looking for. Now we're testing the temperature to see where they're at so that we can know what to do next. All right, so we're passing 140. Remember, they cook at about 145, and there is also something called residual heat. But we're just gonna let these go for a quick 2 minutes more just to develop the Aujus. And there we are at a 160, and these lovely bad boys are nice and juicy, and they are ready. Good. So what we're going to do now is to remove them from the flame. Look at that. Oh my gosh, guys, do you see the juiciness coming on your screen? I sure you do. Okay, all right, giving you one last look again. Take it in, take it in. Nice and juicy. Good. And now, guess what time it is? It is time to plate. And before we plate, that is the Aujus. What is an Aujus? Is basically the gravy or the drippings from the meat while it was cooking, and that is what we're going to serve our pork chops with, right? So in we go with our potatoes, our pork chops over there. We're adding our vegetables. We're going to go now with some Aujus over our pork chops. Now to complete our presentation, we're going to garnish the dish, right? And the garnishes that we're using today are some parsley flakes, all right, and some cayenne pepper. And look at that, guys. Just take a look. Isn't it tantalizing your taste buds? Look at it. Ooh. Enjoy!